Hi guys, it's Alex here at Fightstorepro.com, and if you hadn't guessed it, today's subject is Jiu-Jitsu Kimonos or Jiu-Jitsu Gis. I'm going to go through three things in this video, and it's not going to be like a lot of the other videos where I compare one type of gi against another gi or one boxing glove against another boxing glove. Today we're going to talk about a whole range of subjects which will help you choose the right gi for you. Now, if you get the opportunity, please try one on before you come to buy one. If you don't, you're going to have to listen very carefully and take your best guess. So a Jiu-Jitsu kimono is largely made out of cotton. With the pants nowadays, you do get some changes. Some pants are made of what's called a ripstop material, which is a hybrid between cotton and polyester nylon, and 100% cotton gis. There are various different types of weave, and the ones that I know of off the top of my head is pearl weave, platinum weave, double weave, and high-tech weave. Now, this is the difference in the way that the actual material or the fabric is put together. Check them out. They're not really better or worse, they're just preferences. And one of the things I can tell you is most gis in this world start kind of equal. There are differences between the brands in cuts, in sizing, and in styling, but largely it's very, very difficult to compare one gi to another in saying which one's better or worse. A lot of this comes down to personal opinion and subjectivity. Now, on a rare occasion today when I'm actually having to take my sunglasses off, because I'm going to have to start moving bits of clothing around. Now, some of the key features of a gi. The sleeve length is extremely important, and all gis shrink on a wash. This one I've had for 15 years, all the shrinkage is out of it, but I think I'm probably verging on illegal here, because if the gi sleeve comes too far away from your wrist, then it will be deemed illegal in competition. Does this make a massive difference in training? Can do, can't do, it depends on how extreme it is. One thing I will tell you though is if the gi is way too long, it really does get in the way. So make sure when you're testing a gi to put an arm out like this and see how far the sleeve rides up. Before washing it, you kind of want it about there, and it will always shrink back a little. Which one's the better weave for you? The weave makes almost no difference. However, a double weave's going to be thick and heavy. The high-tech weave gives a feeling of it being a thicker, tougher gi, but it's actually very lightweight. And then pearl and platinum weave, they're a different weave, but they're not so different. The platinum weave tends to be a little bit thicker and heavier, but it all depends on the weight of the material. Gi weights go between 250 GSM right the way through to 700 for a big, fat double weave. I tend to like the ones somewhere in the middle. 450 is probably about my favorite weight. But again, opinions vary, and we're going to get into that more in a second. When I say the major differences between gis are down to subjective and opinions, I mean it. And the price really doesn't get you a better or worse gi much of the time. If you're paying 55 to 80 pounds, there may be a little difference, but once you go above the 80 kind of pound mark, and that's at this moment in time, 2021, once you go past the 80 pound mark, all the improvements tend to be about what it looks like, not how it performs. So let's get into the actual gi itself, and let's make some comparatives. So, gi sizing. You have three types of gi sizing, one for children, one for adults, and one for female adults. They go up in numbers, so with the adult sizing, it goes A0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I believe some brands even make a 6. Some brands add in this L and W, sometimes an H. Now what this means is L stands for long, W or H stands for heavy or wide. And this is where they're adjusting the fit of the gi depending on your weight versus your height. Now, my personal opinion on this is all a bit of a smokescreen, because it's just about finding a gi that kind of works for you. And everybody's body shapes are so different that really, when it comes down to it, that you can still be a tall, long guy and very, very slim, and you still need an A3, or an A2L can be very close to another brand's A3, and this is where it all gets quite confused. My personal opinion is that unless you're going to go down the whole route of suit jacket kind of sizes, where you're going up in increments of an inch or 2 inch, then this is entirely subjective and pretty much a waste of time. So I'm going to stick with the basic 1, 2, 3, 4s. Kids sizing, we could do a whole video on this, so let's steer clear of it, but it does basically the same thing of go M, 0, 1, 2, 3. Some only go to 3, some go to 4 before it hits adult sizing. And female sizing is just putting an F, and they have a slightly different cut to fit the female body shape. But I'm going to talk mainly about adult male sizing today. So I'm 6'3", and I'm reasonably slim. I'm weighing in at about 93, 94 kilos at the moment, and I have always classically been an A3. Now, this old Machado's gi that I've got right here, this is one of the best fitting gis that I've ever had. Now, it's got a good sleeve length, it's got a nice slim cut, fits me very well. But on the modern gis, I initially had some problems. So I'm going to show you through 1 or 2 of these. So I've got here an A4 King's gi. Now I'm wearing Revgear A3 pants. I've had these for a long time. They've been shrunk in, and I'm going to try this on. I'm going to show you, see the differences. Now, as you can see, there you go. This one is drowning me. It's absolutely drowning me. Look, and it doesn't matter how much this shrinks in, it's never going to be the right size. But on the body, I mean, it's a little big, but it's not massive. And when this shrinks in, this will come in a little. But I can feel it in the sleeve size, like look how much fabric I've got here. That's a massive amount. So A4, even though I'm 6'3", it's gonna be the wrong size for me. I'm a classic A3. However, a guy who is maybe 3 or 4 inches shorter than me, but much bulkier, has a bigger frame, will possibly need an A4 because he's going to fill this gi out. That will bring the sleeves back in and so on. But then what the guy might find is on the pants, he may have to take these up. So he might have to go and see his old mum and get these taken up like this. Now I know a couple of guys who are A4, but they were like 5'10", and they used to just cut the bottoms off the gis. And this is what I'm talking about in these differences between brands and sizing, so you've got to look out for that. So next up, let's take a look at a different brand, which is the Fuji. I'm a big fan of Fuji. It's a lightweight gi. This is the Sekai, which is their top of the range gi. It's got these reinforcements in the back. They've got a nice little design. They used to have an inner print. They've got a nice little design on the back. They've got all this bling on the top, the patches. And this is my next point. This gi retailed at about 150, 160 pounds. Now, gi pricing, I'm going to come to it in a moment. But essentially, there's nothing about this gi which makes it any better than, say, their all-around gi, which is almost half the price of this one, because it's this stuff, it's all this stuff that costs the money. Because all gis are basically made out of similar fabrics, and I can tell you, I'm involved in manufacture. The difference between a gi price at the factory level between the lightest weight material and the heaviest weight material, the different types of material, is really fractional. What costs the money is the time of the construction, how long it takes them to make it. So the more stuff they add, the more bling, as I call it, that they add, the more it costs. So I'm going to just put this gi on. Now, bear in mind that A3 is my size, and I'm already getting choked out by the gi itself. Look at this. So my arm length here, this is way too short for me. And when this shrinks, which it will, right, this is going to come further up. So this is already too short, but I'm A3, this is an A3 gi. It's a lovely fit, it's very slim on the body, it feels good, but the sleeves are just too short, and yet I'm an A3. This is also an A3, and the gi that I'm going to put on in a moment is an A3 too. So the fit is a huge difference. Fuji has a very slim fit. So if you're, if you're muscular, if you're in the slightest bit overweight, if you've got a lot of bulk, then the Fuji Gi may be the wrong gi for you. But if you're a very, very slim guy, haven't got big shoulders, but want a nice fitting, close fitting gi, then the Fuji might work for you. And this is the difference between the brands. It's not better or worse, it really is a fit preference. So let's try another one. So this is the Revgear Huntington. Now the Revgear Huntington is their mid-range gi. And it would sit at about 75, maybe 80 pounds, I can't remember. This is an A3, just like I just mentioned this Fuji Sekai was. And you can see straight away that the sleeve length is different, yeah? But it's not the actual length of the sleeves, it's the depth of the jacket. It's just a little bit bigger. Now, I've got two A3 Revgear Gis and they're shrinking quite nice. This one fits beautifully, but it will be better when it shrinks in, and you have to wire this into the thinking, and we'll talk a little bit about the shrinkage. Now, what you'll see in this gi is, albeit it's made of great, strong materials, this is a pearl weave gi. It hasn't got that much bling. It's got one patch on the side, it's got one little patch on the top, and that is it. And that's probably the major reason why it's 77 pounds, not 150 pounds. Now let's talk a little bit about pants. So, here are the gi pants for the Fuji Sekai, which, now these are ripstop material. You may or may not be able to see this, but the ripstop material has like these fine little squares on it. You can see the triple reinforced stitching. It's got a nice cut to it. We've got the belt loops, which I'm going to talk about in a second. And very, very nicely put together. But ripstop material, you know, has it got the thing which actually tells you the breakdown of the materials in here? Ooh, yeah, 50% cotton, 50% polyester, made in Pakistan, which almost all gis are, which I'll come to again in a moment. Well, so you get now the Kings here, the Kings that I brought out a second ago. These are 100% cotton pants. Now, the difference between ripstop and cotton. Ripstop are pretty indestructible. So, and I believe they outlawed ripstop jackets in competition because they're not kind to your hands. But they are pretty indestructible and they're very lightweight for the ounce. So you get 8-ounce pants, 10-ounce pants, 12-ounce pants. Most of them weigh in at about 10 ounce most of the time nowadays. But you can have a much lighter pant with very, very strong material with ripstop, but it doesn't feel so good. Some people like it, some people don't like it. Yet again, this is a personal preference. These are 100% cotton with the Kings. I much prefer that personally because they're softer. You notice the reinforcements on the leg. I think the Fuji also had those reinforcements on the leg, but with the cotton stuff, you really, really need it. Now, lastly on pants, and again, you can see with the ripstop ones here on the Revgear Gi, let's talk about these loops and the cords. So it used to be that on all pretty much every gi, they had these cotton cords that had a place which would come out the side. You can see that here. They come out the side and they came off all the time and they're an absolute bloody nightmare. Most the gi pants nowadays, most of the gi pants nowadays have these loops. The cord will come out the top from the sides and they have like belt loops on them. Now, these are much, much better, albeit they still have the odd tendency to come off, but I tend to tie them right up against one of the belt loops and bring it to the end of the knot, which helps them stay on for longer. And you'll see guys when they're training, they're constantly having to adjust their belts and sometimes their pants too. Again, between the brands, there's nothing in it. There's nothing in it. Nobody's doing anything particularly different, or at least I haven't seen anybody doing anything particularly different. So the choice has become, are you going for ripstop or are you going for 100% cotton. Again, it's no real advantage or disadvantage. It's just down to a personal preference. The length of the pants, it comes with the length of the gi. So if you are really tall and you have to go with this L system, well, I would just go a gi up generally. And I have seen guys where they buy a different size pants to their gi, and that's something that more and more brands are beginning to do, where they sell the pants separately so that you can mix and match. So you might be very stocky up top and need, say, an A4 gi top, but be a very short guy and need A2 pants, because the width of the pants, the waist size, is wholly irrelevant for most people. If you're under a normal, regular kind of a build, even if you're a little heavy or a little light, it doesn't matter. I'm a solid 34 waist nowadays, but these would fit anybody up to probably a 38, maybe even a 40, and would go down to maybe a 30 or a 32. It doesn't make that much difference. So what have I missed? Pricing. Now, as I said, this can't be like a normal video where I compare A with B and talk about value. All I'm going to say is that most of the top brands, whether it be Kings, Fuji, Revgear, VENUM, they all make a bottom of the range gi, usually priced in between 50 and 60 pounds. They do what's a club style gi, usually between 70 and 80 pounds. Then they step up to they have like a top of the range where they have all their bling, like this beautiful Sekai, which has got all these different things. But the major difference between this type of gi and the ones down from it tends to be the bling. It has no functional difference whatsoever. Now, you might like the styling, but it's got absolutely nothing to do with the function. Lastly, most brands make a competition gi, which will weigh in at the 250 GSM. They try to make them as light as possible. 2.5 pounds is the weight that they all go for. I believe it's 2.5 pounds. I could be wrong. I'll check that out. I'll put it in the description. These are not meant for club use. So if you're looking at a competition gi for club use, that's not what they're designed for. They're designed specifically to be so light that it doesn't affect your weight on weigh-in, because you've got to weigh in for jiu-jitsu competitions with the gi actually on. So don't look at a competition gi unless you're using it for competition. And if you're using a competition gi, you probably need at least one other gi as well. And that brings me to the next point. Value. I would generally say that anybody who's doing jiu-jitsu at any kind of serious level, like i.e. they're wanting to improve fast, it doesn't matter whether you're a white belt or a black belt, you're going to need more than one gi. So for every 100, 130 pounds you spend, I would say you want to aim initially to get 2 gis, not 1. After that, it all comes down to styling. We had the War Tribe gis in for a while, and they were very nice, but there was nothing about them that made them worth 200 pounds in my particular viewpoint. But if somebody likes that styling and they like that branding, but understand that is what you're paying for. It's very much like wearing a t-shirt that costs you 50 quid as opposed to a t-shirt that costs you a tenner. It's pretty much going to be the same garment with the same function. It's the badge that's going to change the price. So be aware of that when you're choosing a gi. Have I missed anything? Well, perhaps, but leave your comments down below. Hit the like, hit the dislike, let me know what you thought of the content, and tell me what you want from our reviews. This is Alex signing out from Fightstore Pro. Please subscribe, and we'll see you next time.